All modern industrial economies rely on oil as their basic energy source. The U.S. has few oil reserves in its own territory, so it will not be able to continue as an economic power unless it transitions away from using oil for much of our modern life, gasoline, plastic, and electricity. Any quick transition away from oil usage must include the replacement of gasoline-powered vehicles in the entire United States. There are currently about 260 million gasoline-powered cars and other commuter vehicles in the United States that need to be replaced by vehicles powered by other means. Those other means are already available. The best long-term replacement is the hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. These cars use liquid hydrogen in a gas tank, which interacts with oxygen that enters the vehicle during travel. The chemical reaction between hydrogen and oxygen produces electricity that powers the vehicle, with H2O, water, being the only exhaust. Even better, we know that hydrogen is one of the most abundant elements in the universe. So converting to hydrogen fuel would mean that we would probably never run out of cheap, powerful, and clean fuel for travel. If we were able to convince Americans to buy these hydrogen fuel cars and stop using gasoline cars, we could not only reduce U.S. oil consumption by about 72%, but we could also largely eliminate the amount of air pollution that currently chokes most major American cities. How do we convince American drivers to buy these cars? The answer is simple, and has in fact already been used in 2009 as the Obama administration's Cash for Clunkers program. The government should offer $10,000 vouchers for trade-ins when a buyer agrees to purchase a hydrogen vehicle. This would drop the price of, say, a Honda FCX from $36,000 to $26,000. The federal government should lower costs even further by agreeing to purchase these hydrogen cars in bulk from automakers. Buying 70 million vehicles per year gives the government a lot of strength in demanding lower prices. The government should strike a deal with automakers to lower prices for new owners by another $10,000. This means that American car buyers would pay only $16,000 for a brand new car that runs on a much cheaper, abundant, and non-polluting fuel. The goal should be to replace all gasoline vehicles within 5 years, which means about 70 million vehicles per year at a cost of $700 billion per year. 70 million vehicles that cost the government $10,000 each through the voucher program. We can easily raise the money for this massive transition by creating a 1% tax on Wall Street transactions, which would raise about $700 billion per year. Factory production of plastic goods takes up about 4.6% of all U.S. oil consumption, largely because plastics themselves are made from oil refined in factories whose electricity is supplied by even more oil. In effect, producing plastic takes 1 barrel of oil for the plastic itself plus another barrel for creating enough power to run the factory. Scientists and a few corporations have already figured out how to dramatically cut back on the amount of oil used to make plastic. Their efforts have largely focused on making plastic out of animal actions and plant growth, which largely eliminates the oil-based factories. Converting to plastics made by mineral, the addition of carbon dioxide to the factory process, and sugarcane could cut plastic's share of U.S. oil consumption from 4.6 down to 1.6%. The United States mostly creates electricity through burning coal, natural gas, and nuclear power. Burning oil accounts for very little of U.S. electricity, so electricity production is only about 1.4% of total U.S. oil consumption. Even though the United States burns very little oil for this purpose, its heavy reliance on coal, gas, and nuclear sources contribute greatly to carbon dioxide emissions, pollution, and global climate change. Research shows that world energy demand will be 16.9 trillion watts, also known as terawatts or TW, by the year 2030. Research further reveals that U.S. energy demand will be 2.8 terawatts or 16.5% of total world demand. The total cost of building a renewable energy supply system to meet all world demand will be $100 trillion. If the United States demands 16.5% of world energy, then it will probably cost about $16.5 trillion to construct the system in the United States alone. If we planned on building the system over 10 years, that would mean $1.65 trillion per year in new spending. That is a huge cost, but within reach once we start planning on how to get the money. The best funding option is to raise taxes on a group of people that can afford to pay a slight increase and who have enough overall wealth to fund the green energy project. We could raise another 2% tax on Wall Street transactions. That would give the government an estimated $1.4 trillion per year. That leaves only $250 billion left to get. That last amount can be found by creating a $20 tax on every metric ton of carbon pollution created by the fossil fuel industry in the United States, which would raise about $118 billion per year, while also giving an incentive for energy companies to move away from burning fossil fuels to generate electricity. That would leave about $132 billion in money to be found per year, which could be taken from the estimated $1.179 trillion per year in revenue raised from the fair tax code proposed in the Plan for a Rational Budget. The Wall Street transaction tax is capable of raising the $1.65 trillion per year needed to build the green energy infrastructure. A total 3% tax will not destroy the Wall Street class of wealth. Most of the rest of the country pays about 7% in sales tax, so Wall Street should not complain about paying a 3% tax for 10 years. In fact, a 3% tax on Wall Street transactions would mean that an investor looking to buy $10,000 worth of stock would only have to pay $300 in tax. Such a small fee is obviously affordable for the rich and will pay most of the cost of building a renewable energy system that will benefit all Americans. We can largely break our reliance on oil if we choose to fix these problems.